Hello, everybody, and welcome to another podcast of A Water With. Today, because Michael and myself are both like German native speakers, we have somebody from Germany, and we should actually do the whole podcast in German because we all three can speak German. And that's almost quite crazy that you're listening to a podcast today where all three people have a German accent. But obviously, we want to make sure that everybody will understand us. Therefore, we will keep that podcast in English today. Maybe we will do in the end like 2 or 3 minutes in German for our listeners in Germany and in Austria and Switzerland who may be not so firm with the English language. But anyhow, welcome to A Water With, powered by Planet Water. My name is Martin Riese, your water sommelier. And obviously I have Michael with me, my co-host. Hello, Michael.
Hello, Martin. It's fascinating what you just said, that we're all three German speakers. But I think the real reason we don't do it in German is because we're too lazy to do the subtitles, right?
You're absolutely right. And I'm really, really bad when it comes to like writing in English still. So I don't want to like start that people laughing about me when I'm trying to do some English subtitles beneath. So I think we're sticking to the English language. I think that's just easier for everybody, and especially for our listeners, because I just checked on Podbean, where it's our provider for the podcast. And pretty much 95% of our listeners are actually in America. So we want to make sure we're catering to our listeners and we're sticking to English.
And after all, the German accent is the official accent for water sommelier and for the whole category.
You're absolutely right. We figured that out for like another video. Do you remember the company who badmouthed water sommeliers, but it's actually a purified water company? That was hilarious. And they put I don't think that he had a German accent, but I think he had like a French accent or something like that. And we were laughing about this and we both agreed, I think when people are starting to make jokes and fun of the category, then we actually achieved something.
Absolutely. But let's go ahead and bring Nicholas in.
Hello, Nicholas. So we have a very special guest today, and Michael just said it. We have Nevas water, and I think you already see this a little bit right in front of me. It's a very, very special water from Germany, but I think obviously Nicholas should tell us a little bit more about that. So hello, Nicholas. Hello to Germany.
Hello, both of you. Hope you're good. Greetings first up front from Germany. Yeah, thank you very much for the short introduction, giving a short input or a short overview. My name is Nicholas. I'm the founder of Nevas Water, probably the uniquest German water, probably one of the uniquest all over the world, because Nevas Water is the first water cuvée in the full segment.
That's quite interesting, Nicholas. So let me start or like circle back a little bit. How did you came up with the idea to go even in the water industry or maybe creating this water?
Yeah, it's like a double story, to be honest. First of all, it was a private need. I used to drink a good glass of wine, but there are a lot of situations in my whole life. I was a professional sportman, and in all these situations of partying, weddings, events, there was, for me privately, no solution of a premium non-alcoholic beverage. So I thought, you're growing up in a country which is probably one of the most or has the most natural springs all over the world in comparison. I thought, what should have a unique water which can be a centerpiece of any festive table? So besides just having a sip of water after sports or in between, my idea was creating a water is unique, different in taste, and is really, really special because you decide proactively in this category to have a non-alcoholic beverage to celebrate.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And just to be clear for our listeners, Nicholas said he's a cuvée. And what cuvée means, most of you know, but it basically means the water is curated. It's mixed from two different sources, which creates a lot of problems in Germany. And we will talk about it, what it means. But I'm fascinated by the idea, and always have been, of elevating water, number one, from a commodity to a product that has terroir. We know comes from a special place, expresses the character. But then there's another elevation to making water into something you can celebrate with. And I think this is what Nicholas is talking about, using water to celebrate. He will show us the bottle later. This is a special water. This is not for hydration. This is for celebrating. And there's a very short line of companies that do that kind of thing. And we all remember Bling was one of the first companies that elevated the category from being just hydration to being something using water to celebrate with.
It's quite interesting, Michael, when I may interrupt there a little bit, because when Nicholas just said about, hey, I'm going to parties, but maybe I don't want to drink alcohol, there's something missing. And it reminds me actually on your story, Michael. Can our listeners, or can you tell us a little bit about your story? Why? Because a lot of people, I don't think that know why Michael came to water.
So food and wine was also always very important for me and my wife as well. I'm a food anthropologist in a former life. And in 2002, I suddenly had to stop drinking alcohol. And this was really very hard. I didn't have a choice, so I just had to do it. And suddenly there was a bottle removed from the table. And the bottle was, of course, the wine. And if you enjoy wine, you don't drink wine just to get drunk for the alcohol. You drink it for the enjoyment, the celebration, the sharing with friends, all those kind of things. This is why you drink wine. And suddenly this bottle got removed. And I looked around, desperately trying to find something else. And what's the other bottle that's usually on the table is water. And I applied this whole passion I had for the wine. I applied that to the water. And for the first 6 years, no one was talking to me. And then it took Martin and some other people to pick up the story and run with it. And look where we are right now. We have a brand like Nevis that really does exactly what I wanted in 2002.
Nicholas, so this is quite interesting. I think that there's a lot of similarity between Michael and yourself, Nicholas. So can you tell us a little bit so you had the idea, obviously, Nicholas, about the cuvée. What was the next step?
Yeah, the next step was quite, or probably the longest part of all the product or process behind, because my idea was not having water what already exists, just bring it into another package to bring it up to a higher price or getting an eye catch on the table. In this time, I read a lot of different parts from all over the world, and one part which really catches me, and this is probably the USP of Nevis overall, was an article written. To sum it up, it was like the same product mixed up with the amount of bubbles and the tininess or bigness of bubbles brings up a totally different taste. So the same water without bubbles, with big bubbles, with small bubbles, with a few or a lot of, completely tastes different. And in this category, it was really interesting when you really do a deep dive to get the feeling of the taste you're really catching up. It's not mainly the taste. 80% is more or less the smellness you get and the mouth feeling. Only 20% of what you really catch or what you really get is the taste. And the combination of this knowledge, having German water and the part of creating different bubbles into a water, this brings up after a process of roughly 4 years, is bringing me up to Nevis. So Nevis as a cuvée of 2 different Estesian springs, which was really important for me, that the strongest pressure of the water its owns comes up, and then creating a new carbonization process. And this is what we officially did. Beside all the other companies I know, this brings up Nevis, and this is why a lot of high-class gastronomy star cooks use Nevis, because of this. Yeah, we are not talking about bubbles, we are talking about a pelage in this water.
Yeah, it's really interesting. What you're basically describing to me here is, blending a water. This is what, the famous Scotch companies do with their whiskey blends, to blend it to curate the water. But I also really enjoy what you say about the experience. It's not just about drinking water, hydrating. It's also about the experiences you can have with water. And if you see your product, and I've seen it in a restaurant setting, you walk in with this bottle, it draws attention. It's clear for me with a product like this that you can also celebrate with water. It doesn't have to be champagne. You can celebrate with something like this, and you get the same or even more attention from the water.
That's totally correct, and this was like the main process behind having a nice packaging. And in my opinion, it is obviously it's a nice packaging. It's like a champagne bottle. The excitement of opening this is quite good. For me, the most important thing was a good packaging is nice, but everything what's inside, what the drinking experience of each our listeners today and all those who have tried it already, they never forget it. It's completely unique. And this is the main difference, what I was working on for so many years.
I love what you just said, Nicholas, because for me, I'm always saying in the podcast, and I've said it in many, many media interviews as well, in the end, I love obviously the packaging, but in the end, the quality in my glass, what I'm drinking, that is what I'm judging as a water sommelier. Yes, absolutely, the packaging is important. And everything surrounding this is important. But in the end, again, it's all about what I have actually in my glass. And I think it's great that you just mentioned that, to say, yes, sure, design is important, packaging is deciding. We all know when guests are going, or like when people going to the stores, obviously they're looking at the shelves and looking at the first thing like, oh, I like the bottle shape, I like the name, I can easily pronounce it. Sure, let me try that. But again, in the end, it's all about what you have in your glass. And that is always what I'm, again, saying to companies as well. It's so important to not just think about the crazy marketing gimmicks of like the bottle and everything. No, it's about the product in the glass. And you will see this, especially here in America, with a lot of purified water companies, that they are focusing their whole marketing just about packaging. It's all about package, and obviously high pH. That's the only thing when they're like talking. Oh my God, my water has a pH of 8.4. My water has a pH of 9.4. I just called out another water company who sells a purified water out of Mexico, actually, originally, and sells it now over here. I'm not using the name because it's not fair, but everybody who follows me on Instagram can see it right away, because I'm not shy to say the company names there, because I'm just asking them questions, and sometimes they're responding, sometimes they don't respond to me. This company now responded with like 3 different articles about the benefits of high pH water, and there are studies been done about high pH water. All 3 studies, I was reading this and I sent them back an email, said, the conclusions actually, we not really know if high pH water really makes sense to your body or not. All 3 conclusions are this. So I asked them back, did you actually read the emails, what you just sent me about the regulation conclusions about this high pH gimmicks? Obviously they didn't respond now back to it, because they realized, oh shit, that's completely nonsense what we just sent the water sommelier. But it's hilarious. And for me, it's always like, again, when a water company does not talk about their water actually, where it's from, what it is, then it's a red flag. Because that means for me, like, that's kind of strange that a water company does not talk about water. It's just talk about packaging, the benefits of maybe packaging, and then the high pH. Something is off there. And I love that you just said, no, it's all about our product. But again, by this being said, I want to actually talk about your packaging, because it's very unique as well. And I want to really know what you thought about this. And for the people, for our listeners who just listen to as a podcast, as an official podcast, please watch us as well on YouTube. I can highly recommend this, because then you can see us as well. And you can see obviously this incredible, beautiful bottle. So I have here 2 bottles, and you have 2 bottles as well, I saw already. So let's talk a little bit about the design. So where's the name coming from, Nevas? Why is it in a black champagne bottle? And why does it look so gorgeous?
So you just handled over with a couple of questions. The easiest one is the name. The name is a combination, obviously. The NE of Nevis, the first two letters, came from the Italian word nero, which means black. Obviously, everybody knows. The other meaning of NE and nero is Greece, and it's the translation is water. So we already have in the NE water and black, and the va is Latin and means vessel. So if you put it in a sentence, you have like a water in a black vessel, and this is what you have in your hand. The sign in the middle is my family crest. So this is a hard piece for me, why I built like the brand around this. And in my opinion, the name, as you already mentioned, should be a name which can be easily pronounced all over the world. So in combination out of this was the creating NEVAS water. Why is the bottle black? The bottle is black because we have, and now I'm jumping into some future ideas of obviously, is there is coming up some more in the assortment where we obviously need a back bottle for. Besides this, my first or my own part was breaking completely with all the rules of water bottles. Normally you have white bottles, sometimes a little blue or green, but black was for me a completely hard cut, and even the eye catcher to create the centerpiece of an table. And a combination out of this was like with the name of Nero, meaning black, and the bottle, this was the creation part of this. To be honest, in my first tests, I had a little bit different bottle size, but due to the fact we need a really, really strong bottle has a really big lower part for the special unique pelage in the just producing process, it ends up with a champagne bottle, which brings us to like the opening process. What you already mentioned is to bring up the attention already to the guest, to the clients who are waiting for getting a piece of the water. If you open up the bottle, it takes some time, and they are getting more and more interest and positively nervous when the cork plops out. So this is like all these catching attention.
Fascinating story. It's so about 10 years ago, there was a trend that rainwater became fashionable, and people put rainwater from remote areas, not from the middle of Shanghai, put this water into bottles, and they tried to get approval, for example, in New York. And in New York, the requirement for water to be approved in New York was that they needed to have a geologist's report on the water. And I remember one of those companies that tried to import rainwater into New York telling me, Michael, what can I do? My water never touches the ground. I'm not able to get a geologist's report because it's not in the ground, the water. So I understand, and Martin before said that it's important that companies talk about where the water is coming from, you know, what the source is. But I understand you're actually not allowed to do that due to some, you know, probably outdated, and you being a pioneer, German laws. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, this is a quite difficult part, as we have already discussed in the upfront. Nevis let me start other way around. Germany is, as I know, the only country which has besides the regulatories for food and drinks, have his own regulatory for mineral and table water. And in this part is fixed that some different parts, when is a water a mineral water and when is a water a table water. And due to the fact that we create the cuvée and the combination of the two sources, we are breaking one rule of mineral water law. This is mainly driven by the fact that we bring one source to the other one to bottle everything. And if you go out of a certain cycle around the source, you're not allowed anymore to call it mineral water. And in Germany, a mineral water has to be written on the bottle and everywhere. What's the name of the source, the mineralization, pH, everything. You have to give the consumer all the insights. If you are, as we are with Nevis, a table water, you're not allowed at all. So I'm not allowed to tell you exactly which two different sources we are using. I'm not allowed to tell you what is exactly in the water, beside one fact. I can tell you our high amount of natural calcium. This is the third part why our water is quite unique. We have over 600 milligrams natural calcium in each liter. Why we are allowed to tell these? This is like an European law, which covers the German law, because if something is much over the middle weight in a product, you have to tell the consumer for safety instruction. And we are lucky in this case because we are having much higher calcium part in the water as most of the German water. This is why we are allowed to talk about our high carbonization and high calcium.
It's really quite fascinating. And Michael and myself, we have in our Fine Water Academy, one of the classes is actually about regulations. And it's so funny how different the regulations are all around the world. And we are very well known that Germany is very, very highly regulated, what can be great, but can be a curse as well. But I have to say, I actually like that law. And it's a cool, fun, great story what I'm using now when I'm opening Nevis. So actually that story and that regulation that you're not allowed to do anything like say the names of the spring sources and everything is actually your selling story. So for example, I'm using this as a selling story because it's just hilarious to tell the consumer, yes, it comes from two different natural occurring artesian spring sources, but because Germany is so over-regulated, you're not allowed to call it mineral water. And everybody's laughing then right away. And that's the best selling point. When people are laughing and saying like, oh, that's really funny, that sticks in their brain. Now there's an interesting story, a different layer even to the story again, that this is a water, was almost like rebellion, huh? To the black bottle, to the champagne bottle. It's very untypical German, I have to say. Like when I would see this in a store, my last thing I would think that this is a German product. Because Germany is always, but especially when it comes to bottled water, very, very strict what you just said. That needs to be always in a white or like clear, what you mean, in a clear bottle. We have a very unique mineral water, like bottle shape, what pretty much everybody else uses in Germany. They barely use, some companies using this for the high-end restaurant versions, different bottle shapes, but a regular base. When you're walking into a grocery store in Germany, you see 80 different mineral water brands, and they're all coming from the same bottle. It's hilarious in Germany, but they all have different names, but the bottle is exactly the same because the regulations are so strict. They're even regulating the size of the letters, of the name of the spring source. Everything is regulated. And therefore, I really enjoy your water because you're literally a rebellion.
So I totally agree with what Martin said about this being untypical for Germany, except maybe for the black, because if you look at us three, we all have black short-sleeve shirts on. So it seems like that seems to be a uniform.
That's so hilarious, Michael, that you're saying this, because let's face it, when you're watching here Hollywood-produced movies, the German villains always wearing black clothes. I don't know what it is, but it's so hilarious that it's always the same when you see a German person in TV or in comedy shows or something, or in whatever, in movies, they're always wearing black clothes and they're always saying, yeah, yeah, yeah. How many times they're saying, yeah, I have no clue, but it's the thing of what Americans think about Germany is that we are yeah, wearing black clothes and saying yeah all the time. And schnell and all this kind of stuff. And Fahrvergnügen, obviously. Yeah, that's very important. Fahrvergnügen is the most important thing. Nicholas, I have something very special right next to me because it's not black. That is now a beautiful gift box, what I see. And there's something in there what you sent me. And I just want to showcase this as well because this is quite something. So let me close this again. But can you tell me a little bit about this incredible Magnum bottle? So it's 1.5 liters, guys, a champagne bottle. That is a beautiful product, but there's a very special graffiti on it. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, as you already mentioned, it's a graffiti on it. What is here? I got in touch with a really nice painter in Germany. And he is obviously just producing high-class paintings, mainly driven by his childhood. The painter is called Declart. He's a German one and is just creating pictures of all his things by his childhood, because all the old comics like Minnie Mouse, Snoopy, and all these guys, he's just putting on the wall and then painting the main character in front, always in a combination of a little bit confusing the customers. And I got in touch with him, and he was like having a big opening of his new showroom, and we said, okay, let's do a special edition Nevis Magnum bottle, 1.5 liter, in a combination with his painting. And yeah, as you mentioned, I think the results are quite excellent. And you have obviously the last one of the 2019 production.
I'm not gonna open it. It's like
you can open it. It's like, yeah, it's like we sold 10 of these. As far as I know, 5 of the owners really opened the bottle because they want to have the special feeling out of this bottle. Obviously, those bottles will stick somewhere on a special occasion in the flats somewhere. But by the way, as you talk about this bottle, I can show you something really unique, new thing, because we just came up with a new bottle. I think, in my opinion, perhaps you can tell me more about, Nevis could be up now the first company who is producing double Magnum water bottles. So this is a 3-liter water bottle with a really special label. I will put it in front of the camera. It's get you the shiny stones on it. So really new label, 3-liter bottle of water for your special customers all over the world.
So it's a double Magnum, 3 liters. So what are the crystals?
The crystals are like tiny stones in black and silver, as our product colors are. And yeah, we're bringing out a little bit bigger. So this is more an eye catcher. This will be a special edition for 2020. Yeah, we call it the club edition, only by 3-liter bottles.
It reminds me a little bit about a guy who I once saw who opened a bottle of Beverly Hills 9H2O with black and white crystals, or diamonds actually, on it, with Diplo and 2 Chainz. I obviously never saw that guy, but he looks similar like me. But it was a fun little sequence, and I have a feeling when I'm getting the special edition 2020, we might be getting another taping for that.
It's fascinating. And again, I love the idea, same as Bling pushed the envelope with putting the crystals on there, elevating it, the experience. And as you said, this is for a club. This is when, as I like to say, when you're a famous athlete or, you know, very rich, and your girlfriend is not of legal age to drink, because in the US we have to say this is 21, and you want to impress her. So you cannot buy Cristal champagne or whatever is the most fancy champagne. But if you buy something like this, it also creates an experience and memorable. So I think water can have the same effect on it. I just want to mention, I'm looking at Nicholas, and I see in the background, everything is black. But there's one golden thing in the background on your poster. What's that?
Yeah, you just asked for the right thing, obviously. This is what our biggest goal currently. Nevis was got the or won the Taste Award in the category of curated waters of the Fine Water Society last year in Stockholm, which was an excellent event with a 2-day congress around. And yeah, we was really proud. I think if I got it correctly, we are the first German brand who won this label.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's the first German brand to win the label. For some reason, we don't have many German entrances, but we're getting more and more, and we're very happy to see that.
Quite fascinating. Yeah. Please, Nicholas.
Obviously, this was where I was really surprised, because Germany has tons of mineral waters. So when I got in touch with the Fine Water Society, I was completely surprised that there was only 3 or 4 brands in there, in the excellent community of creating knowledge about all the themes of waters. Yeah, so we are quite happy to work with all the other guys who are doing good jobs on water.
Yeah, I don't know how it is in Germany exactly, but in Austria and maybe in Germany, we have that thing that we really don't trust our own profits that come from our country. So maybe it has something to do with that. What do you think, Martin?
I just wanted to say, Michael, and Nicholas as well, when you think about that, look, I'm German. I am considered one of the leading water sommeliers around the world. The same with you, Michael. You're not German, but you're Austrian, so close enough for me. You're speaking fluent German. But still, I never had a German water company reaching out to me so far to ask me like, hey, Martin, can we do something together? Can we consult? Something like this. It's very strange. And I don't know what it is, why Germany is one of the leaders when it comes to bottled water. They're drinking tons of water as well. I think Italy is the #1 consumption in bottled water in Europe, but then Germany's right away there with around 140 liters per head on a yearly basis. Obviously, what they're drinking daily basis would be crazy. On a yearly basis, what they're drinking, but still somehow German companies, and this might be again a little bit more. That's our territorium. We're selling our brands just in Germany. This is what we're doing. There are some international brands as well, like a Gerolsteiner, for example. There's a couple of them, but they're not really. Germany is not pushing the envelope when it comes to the bottled water industry. What is very strange. Maybe it is something to do because we have so many waters. We have over 500 different mineral water brands just in Germany from German spring sources. When you think about this, they're all local. Their selling radius is around 20 miles. And this is like where their most revenue coming from. Maybe they're not interested in to see the bigger picture of the recognizable thing about worldwide. I don't know what it is. It's very unique and strange sometimes. It's very unique.
Yeah. I think it might have something to do with the fact that the culture around water in Europe and especially in Germany is very advanced. And the story that Martin and I are telling is the story about elevate water, water has taste. And maybe that story doesn't resonate so well with Germany, where people say, I know that already. You know, I drink this water, but I don't drink this water. And this water I absolutely don't like. And you don't see that in the US. I don't see people that say, I don't want that. I only drink this one. So maybe a combination of many things, but I think also because the culture of water consumption is very advanced in Germany and in Europe.
But Nicholas, how do you feel about this? Because I see and I follow your Instagram, I follow your marketing strategy, and I have to say, like, you're really a leader when it comes to new ideas and how to act with water. Because I haven't seen any other German company so far who actually goes out, put a big stand on big like events and saying, yes, you can create cocktails with Nevas water. You can do so many other things with Nevas water than maybe other brands, because I have a feeling that a lot of other German water brands will say, oh, it's about hydration. Where's your point coming into thing? Because I don't think that you would say, oh, Nevis is a great water to hydrate. For sure, it is as well with a TDS of over 2000. But I mean, like, what is your sweet spot? Where is your marketing coming from?
The overall idea is, and catching up with what Michael just said, I think the main problem is, especially in Germany, Switzerland, and Austria, we are used to open the tap and drink the water. But we are only a few countries all over the world can do this. So in my opinion, it was, you have to catch up or go out to the clients, to all the people, and catching up with an idea to create something. For example, a big summer event in the area we are located, which is also really, really famous for good wine. There's once a year a big event. And we said, okay, this is starting in July at 4 p.m. So the sun is already massively there. And we thought, okay, how we can create something special for all these guys who jumping in and having something special. So we create an own ice cream with Nevis. 80% or 70% of an ice cream is mainly water. So we used water, we used Nevis with mint and blood orange. We just put a little bit of the ice in a glass, fill it up with water, a fresh mint on top. It was massively, nobody drank the typical ones as Aperol Spritz or what's normally in this situation was, because all the people and also those who normally want to drink alcohol, we just said, this is a crazy idea, never thought about something creating out of water. We can have so many good things, fruits or whatever, in the combination with this. I have no clue. And this is what we are doing, going to big events like Berlin Fashion Week, Berlinale Film Awards, the European Film Awards, totally different parts, and always trying to create being the biggest eye catcher on the event. Obviously, you never reach all the people. There, you always have those who said, what? I want to have the champagne. Oh no, sorry, this is water. Oh no, I don't like water. But this is probably the regular answer, especially with this bottle. The confusion is most of the time, but then they came up and saying, okay, something is really, really special on this. Let me try it. And then they really, really surprised.
It's, again, fascinating. And for all the listeners and viewers, I really recommend to follow Nevis on Instagram and Facebook, and you can tell us later, and we put the link down there where you can find it. I have to say, you look pretty much like James Bond. I see you all the time in a tuxedo at some fashion event with some beautiful women around you. It seems like you have taken the idea of James Bond and translated it into the water world, you know. And I was thinking, Martin, we need to get tuxedos if you don't already have one. I don't, but I think we need some.
I'm just thinking about James Bond and like let's get the gun going or something like this, because I'm actually getting thirsty now. And as James Bond, you need to hydrate yourself as well. So Nicholas, I really want to drink now Nevis water. And you told me in the beginning, before we started our conversation today, hey Martin, please bring 2 wine glasses. So I have 2 wine glasses in front of me, and now tell me, what do I have to do? And I have to say, I think this is the first time ever that a water sommelier needs to ask somebody what I have to do to drink your water.
So this is a big pleasure for me. Thank you very much for this short introduction. It just put the pressure a little bit more on my shoulders. Yeah. First of all, opening up the bottle. You can just physically try to bring this up. It's quite easily, just wrap it up, then you have the cork on top. As a normal champagne bottle, put your finger on it just for safety construction. Then you just open these up, and then I will be silent. Hopefully we will hear in the microphone the plop, because have you heard the plop? So it really pops out.
Let's see if I can do it as well here in Hollywood. Let's see. Whoa! That worked.
So let's start, and now I will tell you why we have two different glasses. When I go into the gastronomy, I always talking to the guys who will end up or work at the end with the clients, because normally 80% of the service crews put the champagne into or water in a glass like this, just up front, because the bubbles are creating a good view in the glass. My recommendation is to do it like a beer, 40 like this, because in the end of the story, and then I will hope you will agree with me, the sixth or seventh glass out of one bottle, if you just pull it from the top, has lower or less carbonization. Even though if we will have the taste, or we'll do the taste right now, between the first one and the second one, it's up to 30% less sparkling in there, just due to the fact putting the water on the wrong way into the glass.
I love that you just said this. This was one of my restaurant 101s when I did my apprenticeship in the Hotel Stadt Hamburg of Sylt when I was 17. It was in the first week, they told me how to serve a champagne. And you are absolutely right. Never ever serve champagne like that, what you just showed us. You always serve champagne like a beer. You're putting it at 45 degrees angle, you're picking up the glass, you're putting it at 45 degrees angle, and then pour the champagne into the glass very gently, due to the fact that you don't want to lose the carbonation. So I 100% agree with you. It's quite fascinating again that here in America, the regulations are slightly different. Here, the sommelier people are saying you should never touch the glass of a guest, and you should pour the champagne out of what you just said you should not do. And I strongly believe in this as well. So I think it makes completely no sense to tell me that I have to pour Nevas water or a glass of champagne when the glass is standing on the table, because I will lose way too much carbonation. So I agree with you, and I'm completely with you. And that is always what I learned in the restaurant business. It's like math. There's just one right answer. There's just one way to make that answer correct, or go to the right way and to the right answer to make it the right way. So it's very important to stick to this. And for me, again, what I just said, it's like restaurant business. There's always regulations and reasons behind that, why you're doing like that. And the reason, clearly what you just said, makes completely sense. You want to keep the carbonation in the glass. So therefore, when you're pouring a glass of sparkling water, please take the glass, put it in a 45 degrees angle, and pour gently the sparkling water into your glass to not lose the carbonation. I like it.
Guys, you're making me thirsty. Start tasting the water.
Cheers.
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 Cheers, guys.
Okay, so I just tasted both waters side by side. This is the water where I put 45 degrees angle to it. This is the water where I just pretty much dumped the water in it. It's night and day from the carbonation level. It's fascinating. It's really fascinating. And for me, it's the first time I'm actually really trying that out with a bottle of water. It's completely different. The funny thing is, when you look very closely right now, it looks like that this one has more carbonation than this one. But when you're tasting it, it's clearly this one has more carbonation. And don't fool yourself, guys. That has something to do sometimes with the polishing of the glasses. So when you think this has more carbonation, that might be because this glass might be not well polished so well, and there's still some residues of the rack still in there, and the carbonation will detect right away this little particles of the rack, and the carbonation will be going strongly on these things. So even when it looks like more carbonated here than here, in your taste palette, you clearly can taste here it's way more carbonation in there right now than in this one.
Fascinating, Martin. So do you think we could use this in the future to fine-tune a presentation of Nevas with a certain dish that say, you know, one dish, Nevas is the right choice for the overall dish, but then you can fine-tune the bubbles according to whether the dish requires more bubbles or less bubbles?
Yes, definitely. But I'm always a strong believer of, it's the same like with wine people. When you talk to like Mr. Becker, one of the best producers for Pinot Noir in Germany from the Pfalz region, when you ask him, so what is the best way to drink your wine? He will say from this beautiful Burgundy glass, this is the right thing. He will not tell you, oh, wait for 25 hours until you're drinking my wine because maybe it will do something to it. So I have a feeling Nicholas created something very special because he made a cuvee and he wants exactly the same carbonation level in every glass. He doesn't want that the carbonation will change. And therefore, I would highly recommend to pour it the way Nicholas is imagining it, because that is the imagine of the producer now, how he wants to see his water. Obviously, for me as a person who prefers mostly still waters, and sometimes like gently sparkling waters, maybe I would prefer actually the carbonation level when I'm dumping the water into the glass, because I like my waters like tiny carbonated when it comes to carbonation. So I get your point, but for the presentation, I think it should be the way the producer created and thought about that water, and that should be then the way to present it. What do you think, Nicholas?
I totally agree with you. Thank you for the sentence. Pointing one more point out, what probably you will see, and all the other ones have saw as you just pulled your glass in front of the camera. What we normally get as feedback quite fast if we have clients sitting on the table, as you already sitting there, and looking into their glass after a few minutes, the water seems to be more or less still water, no sparkling at all, because the sparkling are that tiny that they're not going up anymore after like 2 or 3 minutes. In addition to this, we, as I already mentioned, have a lot of star cooks who are using Nevis in the entry part, or especially due to the fact of the tininess of the sparkling. The tininess of the sparkling is cleaning up the tongue. So in between a lot of main course menu, if you especially just switching from fish to meat or something, you really can just with 2 or 3 sips clean up more or less 80% of your tongue. And this is like, for example, why a lot of star cooks use Nevis to reorganize all the tastiness, catching up with the next course.
Yeah, and so let's talk a little bit about what are the food pairings you would do with Nevis, poured 45 degrees. For me, it really goes very well with, you know, I see a lot of meat, red meat, the heavier kind of red meat, even game, because of the high TDS level. I could see that would work very well. What do you think, Martin?
I agree with you, Michael. It's so funny because, Nicholas, please correct me when I'm wrong, but I think it's over 2000 TDS. So it's considered to be, for us, a high mineral water. It does not taste like high mineral water. And that's fascinating because on a regular basis, high mineral water is very acidic. It's almost like salty, very harsh on your palate. And I think due to the fact that somehow you found a way to blend in the minerality, the high TDS so well together, even with the carbonation, it does not feel too strong and too heavy. So yes, I agree with you, Michael. I think it's a great water for like red meat, game. I think it's amazing. I see it as well to like grilled fishes. I think even that can even go. In a regular base, I wouldn't say that to a high mineral water with a TDS of 2000 and carbonation that can go with fish. Your water can do that. And that's quite fascinating for me. And 2 questions for you, Nicholas. First, what you're using your water for, pairing-wise. And second, obviously, it's maybe a little trade secret, but how did you came up with the two different spring sources? Why did you choose the two different spring sources? And how did you combine them together? In which ratio? Is it 50-50? Is it 40-30? What is it?
Yeah, going into your first question, the pairing. You already mentioned a lot of the part. In the beginning, all the feedback I got from the cooks and the partners was dark meat, red meat. But it's always getting more and more open, especially on the entrees like caviar, oysters, because of cleaning the tongue. The caviar experience is totally different, because normally you starting with an appetizer of Campari soda or whatever, which is really, really bitter, or closing all the tasteness of the tongue. And then pairing Nevas with a really, really freshy, fishy part, as you already mentioned, is working excellent. And this is what more and more star cooks are doing currently.
Please,
Sorry,
Michael.
I was saying, I agree, especially Martin, also with the grilled fish, because if you look at the grilled fish, it has these slightly charred pieces on top. And that again ties very nicely. And the smoky flavor, right? If you have a grilled fish, hopefully you grill it on charcoal and not on gas, then you have this smoky sensation also on the grilled fish. And that, works extremely well.
Yeah, and then jumping into your second question, I will not tell you too much out of this because it's our secret. It's why we are so unique. What I can tell you is my journey. As you already mentioned before, we have like over 500 national sources in Germany. I'm pretty sure I covered nearly 70% of all of these. Going there, telling them I'm interested in your water, I need some part of it, I need to test it, but I cannot explain you for what. So after my introduction, nearly 50% told me bye-bye. So I had to find a solution to catching up with the water right away. At the end, it was an experience of a group which I used with a wine sommelier here in the Pfalz region, but also some cooks, which I always going in and telling, oh, I have a new creation. And in the end, this water, or the combination of the two different sources, was for me, especially because it's my baby. I have to tell everybody why the water is so unique, but also for the bright feeling or the tasteness for most of the people. This was a perfect combination of heaviness, of mineralization, being also soft, as you mentioned, in water with TDS over 2000. For this, I think Nevis is really, really light and soft.
Yeah, really. And this is like, when I would have this in a blind tasting, I would not guess a TDS of 2000. Not at all. Not at all. So we talked about the bottle shape. We talked about the taste. We talked about the name and the history. Obviously, two things what's very important for the consumer. One, where can I buy it? Second, how much?
It's a good question. Everybody can buy it on our website, nevaswater.com. We are shipping currently all over the world. Right away, we are in discussion, especially for those listeners from the US. We start discussions with some partners in the US to have it constantly over there available, because shipping one bottle from Germany to the US, it's quite difficult because the shipping costs are 5 times the cost of the product. In Germany, the retail price of the bottle we just tasted, the 7,500 milliliters, is 22 euros. The Magnum bottles, it's over 50 euros. And the double Magnum will be by 120. This will end up in the US probably a little bit higher, but this is the range of our prices.
So it's not the cheapest one, let's say it like that.
But it's a good price, for the experience you get with the water. I think it's a very reasonable price. And I bet you, if you go to a party, and everyone brings a bottle of champagne and you bring this water, people will be talking about your presentation, your water, and not the champagne. I just want to follow up on one more question. The sources you selected for Nevis, the two sources, this is still water or carbonated water at the source, naturally carbonated waters?
Both sources are natural still waters. So the carbonization we are adding in our process, but both are still.
Right. Okay. So I think it was fascinating to talk to you, Nicholas. I told our listeners we want to do a little German because I think because like when three Germans talking together in English, we should at least honor our native tongue. So for the people in English, thank you so much for listening. You always know, stay thirsty, be hydrated, then water is not just water. And now a little bonus for several minutes, we will switch in German. Hallo und herzlich willkommen alle Mann. Jetzt reden wir auch mal in Deutsch, was auch mal ganz schön ist. Für mich ist es schon fast ungewöhnlich und das gebe ich auch zu und ich glaube, Michael weiß es auch genauso. Wir haben ab und zu schon Schwierigkeiten, Deutsch zu reden, wenn es um das Thema Wasser geht, weil wir so gewohnt sind, alles auf Englisch zu reden. Michael, wie siehst du das?
Ja, es ist wirklich schwierig, weil wir leben schon so, also wir sind 25 Jahre hier, Martin, du bist auch schon knapp an dieser Zahl und wir denken, schlafen und machen alles in Englisch, besonders neue Dinge, die man neu kreiert. Und was mir immer auffällt, wenn ich wieder plötzlich auf Deutsch umstellen muss, ist, dass man in Englisch denkt und dann in Deutsch übersetzt. Und das ist manchmal irrsinnig blöd. Ich mache das zum Beispiel oft in Österreich, ich gehe in ein Restaurant und jemand fragt mich, möchten Sie noch ein Glas Wein haben? Und ich sage drauf, nein, danke, ich bin fein.
Das ist hilarious.
So, you know, thank you, I'm fine. But it's really, really funny in German. And all those little things where people tell you, Michael, you're no longer an Austrian, you know, you're becoming an American.
Und genau das, was gerade passiert ist, passiert mir auch ganz oft. Michael hat jetzt gerade geschwenkt von Deutsch auf Englisch, hat er aber gar nicht mitbekommen, weil das eben so normal ist, dass man eben Englisch redet. Und das ist auch verrückt, wer mal Mäuschen bei Michael und mir spielen würde merken, ach du liebe Zeit, die beiden sind beide aus dem deutschsprachigen Raum, reden ausschließlich Englisch miteinander. Ich weiß, das hört sich total verrückt an, aber wir reden wirklich, also mal 90% unserer Konversation ist immer in Englisch. Und das ist einfach so, weil wir einfach so, glaube ich, mit drauf sind. Nicholas, hast du das auch ab und zu, dass du merkst, so, du schwenkst schon mittlerweile über, wenn du mit Leuten redest, die auch ganz gut Englisch reden? Oder wie sieht es bei dir aus?
Das passiert immer mal wieder. Es passiert vor allem dann, wenn ich natürlich auch ein paar Tage am Stück mal im Ausland bin, wo man dann hin und her springt. Ganz lustig wird es dann, wenn man im Ausland ist, sich mit 3, 4 Native Speakern und dann einem zweiten Deutschen zu 5 unterhält, wo man dann eigentlich mit allen redet, aber dann doch nochmal 3, 4 deutsche Brocken mit einschmeißt und dann in 3 entsetzte Gesichter guckt, weil die natürlich den halben Satz nicht verstanden haben und nur der zweitsprachige Deutsche. Also ich glaube, das ist ein Prozess, der einfach immer wieder passiert, vor allem wenn man, ich glaube, in das enthusiastische Erzählen verfällt und dann in den schnellen Smalltalk-Bereich überschwingt.
Ja, es ist auch lustig, der Martin hat gesagt, wir reden 90% der Fälle in Englisch und wir schreiben auch 100% in Englisch. Und die 10%, wann der Martin mit mir Deutsch redet, ist, wenn er in einer Umgebung ist, er möchte nicht, dass die anderen Leute mitkriegen, über was er redet, dann switcht er auf einmal zu Deutsch. Er braucht gar nichts mehr sagen. Ich weiß genau, der ist Company and he needs to be careful what he's saying.
Genau. Wobei man muss aufpassen, Los Angeles, 80.000 Deutsche wohnen in Los Angeles County. Das muss man sich mal vorstellen. Also man soll sich wundern, wie viele Leute hier Deutsch verstehen. Also man muss in Hollywood schon ein bisschen aufpassen und nicht immer nur denken, ach so, ja gut, jetzt rede ich mal auf Deutsch, da wird mir nichts passieren. Und plötzlich steht daneben einer und sagt so, na, ich habe schon verstanden, was du gerade geredet hast. Also man soll da ein bisschen aufpassen.
Wie gesagt, es ist auch sehr tricky. So, wir sind jetzt langsam gewohnt, dass besonders wo wir wohnen in Texas ist Deutsch a secret language. Und dann fliegen wir im Flieger, wir sind für 12 Stunden im Flugzeug, wir kommen an in Österreich und ich sage irgendwas über jemanden, der hinter mir sitzt, sage, ja, der geht mir ziemlich am Wecker schon. Und die Erige sagt, vorsichtig, no longer a secret language.
Oh, ich liebe das. Niklas, nochmal vielen Dank, dass du dabei warst. Also ich bin wirklich, und das gebe ich zu, ich bin ein großer Fan von Nevas. Als ich die Flaschen damals gesehen habe, fand ich schon klasse, weil ich stehe total auf sowas. Ich finde das einfach klasse und geil, wenn Wassercompany sagen, komm, wir machen mal was Neues, wir wollen mal ein bisschen den neuen Wege gehen und du machst das ganz klar mit deinem Wasser und es ist nicht ein Gimmick. Es gibt auch Wassercompanies, ich habe es jetzt gerade wieder gehabt, das heißt Rich People Water. Alle wissen, worüber ich rede, die Leute, die auf Instagram mir folgen, weil die versuchen, alles fancy zu sein, haben aber leider gar keine Ahnung von der Wasserindustrie und deren Wasser, was da drin ist, wissen sie selbst nicht, was drin ist. Also ich habe mit denen jetzt ein paar Mal geredet, ach ja, nee, Purified, ja klar, nee, Spring Source, ja, wissen wir eigentlich gar nicht. Die haben gar keine Ahnung, was die da treiben, die Jungs, was eigentlich tragisch ist. Und durch solche Verrückten, was maybe ja lustig ist für die, was aber uns wiederum so ein bisschen stört, weil dadurch werden die Leute, wie du das machst, so ein bisschen gleich auf die gleichen Wellenlänge gesetzt ab und zu. Ah ja, das sind die Verrückten, die sowas machen. Du machst es richtig, weil dein Produkt ist perfekt. Du hast ein wahnsinnig gutes Wasser kreiert und dein Packaging und du hast halt ganz, ganz, ganz viel Herzblut, was unheimlich wichtig ist. Das Herzblut ist das Allerwichtigste.
Vielen lieben Dank für das Kompliment. Ich teile aber komplett deine Meinung. Ich glaube, dass, oder so sehe ich das auch, ich mit Nevas natürlich die Pfeilspitze im deutschen Markt bin. Ich bin der Exot. Am Ende habe ich mir das aber auch zur Aufgabe gemacht, ich sag mal, dem deutschen Gaumen zu zeigen, dass man eben auch alkoholfrei Premium genießen kann. Es geht nicht darum, wie viel Geld gebe ich für was auf, sondern es geht immer darum, was schmeckt mir, was gönne ich mir, was ist der richtige Anlass. Und ich glaube da eben, dass man das auch mit einem Wasser bedienen kann, losgelöst welcher Name da drauf steht. Und das ist meine feste Überzeugung. Und damit gehe ich im Grunde einen anderen Weg als alle anderen. Aber ganz einfach ist das sicher nicht, natürlich.
Sicherlich. Also, darauf, cheers, bis zum nächsten Mal. Ciao, ciao, meine lieben Zuhörer. Thank you so much for listening us here at A Water with today with Nevas. Cheers.